Okay, so this video is going to talk about a German dictionary app for your iPhone or smartphone called Leo, Leo. It's by far the best app, I think, in terms of a free German dictionary. There's other paid ones and ones from the German Rechtschreibungs committee, but Leo by and far as a free source that's on the internet is fantastic. So we just go straight in and just teach you a little bit about dictionary skills. What's by and large represented electronically is what you will find on paper when you're using complex dictionaries. So here I have an example here, talking about house in German. So house in German is das Haus. Okay, so the first thing we see is that you see the word substantiva. Substantiva means noun. Okay, but more importantly, underneath that you have house, das Haus. Okay, so and then you've the plural, die Häuser, the houses. Okay, so because it's a das word, if you were looking up a das word in a dictionary, you would see house is house and the letter NT beside it. NT is neutral, which is from the Latin neutrum, which signifies that the German word is das. Now, we'll go through the der, die, and das. Der, die, and das are important because German is like a puzzle language, so you need to know the gender, the der, die, and das of the word, so that when you're connecting the noun, the der word, the die word, or the das word, to other components of the German language, they morph or they change into modified type of words. Like for example, you'll have in plus das is ins, you'll have zu plus der is zum, and zu plus die is zur. So like those small things. So the der, die, das is quite important. Okay, what's also important when you're looking at words is the context in which they're used. So for example, here, if you go down to Verben, okay, to house somebody, jemanden unterbringen, okay? So, and beside that, brachte unter, okay, that's the Präteritum, the distant past, and untergebracht is the perfect or the distant past, okay? And jemanden, if it ends with an N, that more or less means that the verb, the noun preceding falls into the accusative case. Okay, so if you look under to house somebody, to house, aufnehmen, beherbergen, unterbringen. Okay, so to house somebody, etwas EKK in etwas EKK einbauen. Some dictionaries have EKK for accusative, DAT for dative, G and for genitive. So it signifies what case you need to be using for these. And then various words in context. Der Wohnungsbau, Hausbuilding, die Hausnummer, die Zimmerpflanze, die Puschen, die Hauskatze, die Hausordnung. Okay? And then if you scroll down, you have verbs, the keep house, den Haushalt führen, the wirtschaftlichen. We go down to burglar house, ein Haus einbrechen, and then adjectives. Okay, so house, untergebracht, in the house, im Haus, on the house, aufs Haus. Scroll down again here with phrases to bring the house down. Stürmischen Beifall ernten. Okay, to be the master of one's own house. Herr im eigenen Haus sein. FIG for figurative. Okay. To get on like a house on fire. Dichte Freunde sein. Sich gut verstehen. COLL is colloquial, so it's basically habitual speech that general people use every day. Okay, so and then various examples. So when you're looking for word in a dictionary, I wouldn't necessarily select the first word or the first verb you come across. You need to figure out, does that verb or that noun fit the context of what you want to say? So we look up another word here. Spell it correctly first. Okay, we have introduction here. Okay, so introduction here is Einführung, but can always be Einleitung, Einschreibung, Einsetzung, Empfehlung, Introduktion, die Neuerung. Okay, so if we're looking up a D word in a dictionary, you'll know that there's an F beside it, so signify that it's a D word for a dictionary. Okay, so as a German speaker and as a translator, you need to know which one of these introduction words in German, which one of these several words from Einführung to down to Neugier suits the context of what you're going to say. So, for example, I would use, for example, Einführung if I were talking about any leadership race, or if I were talking about any type of competition, for example. Einleitung, I would use if I were writing any kind of like software guides, if I were talking about a computer, if I were talking about a step-by-step phrase, for example. I wouldn't use Einführung in that sense. For example, Empfehlung. Empfehlung is more or less, or is kind of like, has the connotations of recommendation, kind of like leading you into something, kind of having an introduction. Whether the other one is Introduction, INT or DUKTION, again, it's a word brought in from English, so spelling doesn't change. And then Neugierung, Neueurung, again, that's from the adjective neugierig, which is for curiosity. So, for example, in the world of psychology, in medicine, in academics, that word has a connotation of inquisitive research. Okay, so likewise, for example, so the you have here, for example, die Einschleppung, and it has medicine. So there's certain words that have med in brackets for medicine, comm for commercial, and various markers to signify what genre of language. Should it be used for business? Should it be used for medicine? Should it be used for economics? Should it be used for biology? Should it be used for linguistics? So the important thing is that when you're selecting a word from a dictionary, you need to figure out, is it die das word? What is the meaning behind the word? If, like, for example, if I see the word Neugier and I know the word neugierig, I should be able to put the two ideas together. Again, one of the challenges of kind of like higher order language learning. Okay, so we'll go to the last one. So that was a das D. So we'll go down. We'll have computer, because that's a da word. Okay, computer. So first thing there's these first four words are used for computer language. So der Computer, der Rechner, die Rechnungsanlage, die elektronische Rechner, die elektronischen Rechenmaschine. Okay, so and see the PL is for plural, and then under the last two, the Elektronsrechner, the Elektronenmaschine. Their alte tradition means it's kind of old stylistic language. Okay, so and then below then you have die Rechnungsgerät, die Datenverarbeitungsanlage, elektronische Rechnungsanlage. So again, the idea is when you're looking up a dictionary, you got to figure out so da di das, because if you don't have that, it makes it very difficult to compose logical and grammatically correct German sentences. Thereafter, when you're composing sentences, you just need to figure out what word suits the context you're saying. I remember saying in a class once whereby if I were teaching ESL, English as a foreign language, to adults, for example, I pointed to my stomach, for example. I wouldn't call that my abs or my belly or my gut, because if they were speaking to another adult and said they had a pain in their belly, for example, that would sound weird and inappropriate. But if they were saying to a child, you have a pain in your belly, that would be appropriate. Or if you were saying to your doctor, I have a pain in my stomach, for example, that would be appropriate. Whereas, let's say, if a kid was saying I have a pain in my stomach, that would be kind of like, oh, a little bit grown up for their level. So the important thing is that you need to figure out with dictionaries, is it a daddy das word? The nouns for der words have an M after it. For female words have an F after it, and das words have an NT after it in written dictionaries. Sometimes in electronic versions as well. When you're looking at electronic versions, more so because you can get more data. In electronic versions, you need to be looking at what is the plural of the word, in what context is the word being used. Is it being used for a computer language, technical language, for economics, for business, for example? And what's nearly as important as that is that, going back to the example we had about Neugierung, whereby I knew the word neugierig was in there and it had a sense of curiosity and wonder and a little bit of intellectual curiosity behind it. You need to select the appropriate word for your context, because I know a lot of students would just go to a dictionary and just look up the first word and bang it in, and whereby, in a very black and white way, if you want to argue, does it make sense? At a very raw meaning, it makes sense, but to a natural German speaker, which I'm not, by the way, it would not make sense, and also to a translator, which I am, by the way, also would not make sense, because the style and the mode and just the general meaning of the sentence would not make sense. And again, that's a hard part of language learning for any student to master.